Hi, this is Sue Jackson of the Live with ME/CFS blog. Today, I'd like to share with you 5 books that have helped to inspire me and provide guidance on my 19-year journey with chronic illness. First, the book that has had the biggest impact in my life, The Anatomy of Hope by Dr. Jerome Groopman. The subtitle is How People Prevail in the Face of Illness. This book came into my life at just the right time. It was in the early years of my illness. I was in a bad relapse. Emotionally, had kind of hit bottom. I was just feeling full of despair. And I read this book and it helped tremendously. So what the author does is he shares many personal stories, both from his own patients and his own personal decades-long battle with chronic back pain. The stories show his own gradual understanding of the role that hope plays in healing, which is certainly not something that he ever learned in medical school. Now, to be clear, this is not the typical kind of think yourself well book. You know, positive thinking can cure you. I think all of us with chronic illness have felt the backlash of that kind of thinking at times, because it implies that if you're still sick, then it's your own fault and you're doing something wrong. Yeah, that's not this. This instead is a very practical, clear-eyed view of the role that hope plays. So he presents both anecdotal stories and scientific evidence of the role that hope, joy, and attitude play in illness. He combines compassion and science, and reading this book provided me with some much needed hope at a real low point in my life. And I've read it again since, and it's had the same effect. In fact, when my father was diagnosed with stage 4 melanoma about 6 years ago, first thing I did was send him a copy of this book, as well as some of my favorite quotes from it. And he read it all, and I think it had the same positive impact on him. He was something of a pessimist in his normal daily life, but reading this book, I think, really did give him some hope in a way that helped him to enjoy what he had left of his life. I think it would have been easy for him to sink into despair and miss out on anything he had left. And I think this book really played a significant role in providing him hope, which then allowed him to continue living, both emotionally and physically. So, and it gave us, his family, and him, one last full year together where we could enjoy each other's company and have some joyful moments together and create memories. So I do think, you know, this book has had a positive impact on both me and on him. This book's very special to me for those reasons. The next 3 books are all by the same author. Tony Bernard is an author who has ME/CFS. Now, Tony and I got sick at about the same time, around 2002, and we met each other online. There wasn't a big online community at that time, but we met each other online a couple of years later. So we've been good friends for almost 2 decades now. She's a very special person, and her books are wonderful. So her first book, How to Be Sick, a Buddhist-inspired guide for the chronically ill and their caregivers. So this book is focused solely on those with chronic illness and the people around them. And what she does is take Buddhist principles and apply them to a life with chronic illness. And when I first reviewed this book for her, the advanced copy I've got was filled with tabs and Post-its and dog-eared pages. It's just so full of great information. So for instance, one Buddhist principle is that every life contains challenges, that suffering is a normal part of life, and that when you accept this, you can actually ease some of your suffering. Other topics that she covers are things like finding joy in the midst of suffering, healing your mind by living in the present moment, learning to stop destructive thoughts, and so much more. And she outlines some simple practices that anyone can do in their daily life that will help you to live this kind of a more peaceful life of acceptance. Toni's second book, How to Wake Up, a Buddhist-inspired guide to navigating joy and sorrow, is meant for a broader audience. This is for anyone who has challenges in their lives, which, yeah, that's pretty much everyone. But she, again, is taking Buddhist principles and applying them to everyday life to help people deal with those challenges. The goal is so that anyone can live a life with more peace and resilience. She describes in detail how to go about waking up, as she says. In separate chapters, she covers topics like mindfulness, kindness, compassion, and a lot more, as well as obstacles to wellness like dissatisfaction, anger, and worry. In this one brief passage, Toni introduces the concept of judging and why it hampers a life of peace. Judging is an obstacle to waking up because it's hard to engage life as an awakened being with kindness and friendliness, compassion, appreciative joy, and equanimity if we're always adding likes and dislikes, shoulds and shouldn'ts to our bare experience. I found that passage very, very insightful and thought-provoking, and I have given some thought to the role that judgment plays in all of our lives. Overall, this book feels like having a good friend by your side, encouraging you, helping you through your challenges, and also experiencing life's joys. Toni's third book, How to Live Well with Chronic Pain and Illness, a Mindful Guide, returns to the audience of those living with chronic health conditions. But this is a more broad-based view. It's not only based on Buddhism. So for this book, Toni writes a very popular column in Psychology Today called Turning Straw into Gold, which is wonderful. I mean, every column of hers is just insightful and thoughtful and wonderful. So she took those columns and adapted them into this book. So it's all in there. I hardly even know where to start because she's packed so much in. She's got short, easy-to-read chapters that cover every aspect of life with chronic illness or pain, from the benefits of patience to the trouble with complaining, from mindfulness techniques to how to deal with doctors, and from appreciating what you have and being grateful to providing guidelines to the friends and family of someone who's chronically ill. Toni's warm, kind tone runs through it all, interweaving her own experience and practical tips for the reader. Her approach is always calm and compassionate. As she herself states, I've worked hard to find a measure of peace in the midst of feeling misunderstood. I think we can all relate to that. And she takes that hard-won experience and helps boil it down to basic, simple steps that we can all take to help improve our lives and cope better with chronic illness. My final choice is a little bit different. It's a beautiful and inspiring memoir called The Sound of a Wild Snail Eating by Elizabeth Tova Bailey. This author also has ME/CFS, and at the time this book was at least conceived, perhaps not written, she was completely bedridden. So she was living a very limited life at the time. A friend of hers was taking a walk in the woods and spotted a little snail on the ground. And she picked it up and brought it to the author's house and stuck it in a little pot of violets on her bedside table. And it's funny because the author's initial reaction is, what is she thinking? Why would I want a snail next to my bed? But this little snail eventually wins her over. And he provides a tiny slice of the natural world right at her bedside. And even some companionship, as odd as that sounds. She writes of the snail's fascinating habits and compares its life with her own. Her observations of the snail, fortified with facts that she researched later on, are presented in beautiful poetic language. It's a beautifully written book, alongside observations of her own restricted life. It's hard to describe this book, but the overall effect is fascinating and lyrical. It's a very quick read. It's a very small book, and I highly recommend it for anyone, especially if you're living a rather limited life at the moment and looking for some inspiration. Last but not least, I will provide a bonus 6th book. I can't forget my own book that I published last year in 2020, Finding a New Normal, Living Your Best Life with Chronic Illness. The focus of my book is on sharing our own experiences and providing practical tips for anyone else living with any kind of chronic illness to help improve your life bit by tiny bit, even if you are living a very restricted, limited life. It covers daily living, emotional coping, relationships, which is a tough one for a lot of people, and even small improvements. And the idea is simply to use the practical tips here, and it's written so that you can kind of dip in and dip out. You don't have to read it cover to cover. Each chapter deals with a different topic, so you can kind of dip in and dip out and use the practical tips to make your own life less stressful, more peaceful, and more joyful. And that's it. These are some of the books that I have found most inspirational over the years of my chronic illness, and I hope that you find some inspiration in them too. And if you have some other books that have inspired you, please tell me about those down in the comments so that we can all hear about them. Thank you.